and the one who is to be first among you shall be a slave of all. When we were on this recent pilgrimage to Greece and Turkey in the footsteps of St. Paul and St. John, we visited a little island called Patmos, where St. John, the evangelist and the beloved disciple, went to live and took Mary, the mother of Jesus, as he was instructed at the foot of the cross, to care for his mother. But they also ended up in a place just outside Ephesus, inside Turkey. And there's a house there called Mary's House. And it's a beautiful devotional area and very powerful pilgrimage site. It's there they believe that Mary died and was assumed into heaven. But there's clear evidence that John, who lived to a ripe old age, they sometimes think he lived nearly to 100 years old, lived right in that area. And the monastery where he received the revelation for the book of Revelation was given, and that becomes St. John's Monastery. It's a deeply, really powerful part of the pilgrimage. But it's the same John that is in today's gospel, right? But this is the younger John. That was the older John who was nearly 100 years old. This was the John who was just a teenager. See, John was the youngest of the 12 apostles, right? And they estimate that he was between either 16 or 17 years old. So we're talking about really, really young, which makes his older brother James probably 18 or 19 years old. We're not 100% sure. So you have to understand the context of today's reading, right? This is Mark's gospel, the very first gospel to be written. And remember, this is a continuation from last week's gospel. Last week's gospel, the rich young man comes up to Jesus and says, what must I do to receive inherit the kingdom of heaven? And he says to him, basically, give away everything. So you can right our way, James and John comes along. See, now, why do they do this? Well, they must be enthusiastic. They're the young ones. They've given up everything. So they're thinking, I got it. We're doing what he's asked. We've given up everything. We're following you. And so he turns around and so listen, can you give us a place? Give us a... And he goes, you don't get it. That's not what my kingdom is about. It's not about power and glory. And then along come the older, wiser disciples, the apostles, and they are equally upset because they don't get it either. And so Jesus then turns to all of them and says, look, you misunderstand. His kingdom was not about power over people, as in domination, as in control over people. He said, my kingdom is about service. It's about love. And that's where Jesus ends up over and over again throughout all the Gospels. It's always about how much you love one another. And of course, John's Gospel takes up that particular motif and hammers away at it, not only in his Gospel, but also in his letters, and again in the book of Revelation. But we so easily forget that, because we think we can work our way to salvation. That it is our deeds that will get us into heaven, and it's not. It's about how much we love one another. In fact, in the story, the way it goes with John, the evangelist, in his older years, when he was so old in those area around Turkey, that people come to him for advice. He was kind of the wisdom purveyor. And that no matter what question anyone asked him, he had the same threefold response. Love one another. Love one another. Love one another. Ultimately, John mellowed in his old age and realized it is all about love. In fact, another great St. John the Cross, puts it like this, and it's very distinct. In the evening of our life, will be judged not on how well we have lived, but on how well we have loved. You see, in the end, my friends, it's not what we have or own. And it's not the job we have. It's not the things we have. Not even the reputation we have. In the end, we'll be judged on how well we have loved one another. That's the ultimate measure. And that's what Jesus continues to bring to all of us as disciples. It's not just loving our family and our friends. Of course, we are called to that. Our family, our parents, our children and grandparents, maybe even that one family member who seems to be more difficult than the rest, we're called to love. But we're also called to love our friends. But the harder part that we're called to do is to love those we don't agree with, those who we struggle with, those who hold different political opinions, different socio-political or socioeconomic opinions, those who hold different religious opinions, those who come from different places that we don't necessarily want. We are called to love them and to recognize in them is the same seed of God that is within each of us. See, in the end, that is the ultimate service. That is what we're called to do when we serve one another, is to love them by giving ourselves away to them. So, in the end, it is to love one another. And the greatest of these among the disciples will be the one who is the servant of all.